If you're waiting to feel ready, you already lost. Most people are not lazy. They're scared. Scared of failing. Scared of being seen trying. Scared of realizing they never use their full potential. Here's the truth. You don't find confidence first. You build it by showing up. You don't eliminate fear. You walk straight through it. Every day, life gives you moments. You won't win all of them. You don't need to. If you capitalize on just a few, if you stay disciplined when no one is watching, if you stop waiting for permission, one day you'll look back and realize you didn't just survive life, you earned it.
If you were confronted with everything that was put in front of you, who would you become? I was thinking about this the other day. Purpose has to be a free choice. And when I say a free choice, I don't mean something you're forced into, but when you really think about it, is your mind actually free? For me, there was no passion, there was no motivation, there was nothing. But there was this fire inside of me that said, I'm going to become someone. And that has to exist, because on all the bad days and on all the days where you don't feel like doing anything, you have to be your own motivator. The reality is this: how do some people stay consistent over and over and over again, game after game, year after year? And I think that obsession is what I love studying and learning about, and what I try to place myself into as much as possible. Trying to have a limitless mindset, to think that way and to grow that way. Right now, there is pain and difficulty in front of me that I have to face and get through if I'm going to reach something in the future that I believe is my responsibility to achieve. The most important thing is consistency. If you have awareness, you will be fine in the future, or you'll be better than most people. That's my opinion. Let go of jealousy. Jealousy doesn't tell you what you want. It distracts you from what you already have. When you use exposure therapy, people don't become less afraid. They become braver, and that's better because bravery transfers from one situation to another. When he's injured and not playing, he's still at every game. He doesn't need to be there, but he is. That's the kind of player and person he is. The easy thing is to sit on the couch and blame someone else. The hard thing is to say, life just gave me a moment, and I'm not going to hit 100%. It's more like professional baseball. I'm hoping that batting .300 gets me into the Hall of Fame. If I can capitalize on 30% of the moments life gives me and waste the other 70%, I believe I'll go into the ground saying, man, I earned life. If you're not more disciplined than everyone else, if you don't do more than everyone else, you'll never be number one, like me. I'm kidding. I've never seen someone truly successful who had an amazing social life in their early 20s. If that's what you want, that's fine, but you won't be successful. And don't blame anyone else for it. Going to the gym and building muscle is one of the few things in life where, while you're doing it, you can see where you'll end up if you stay consistent. You're already successful, and you're going to be even more successful. I have no doubt about that. The only thing that can ruin it is comparing your wins to someone else's wins. Life is extremely valuable, ladies and gentlemen. Time is extremely valuable and extremely fragile. You have to decide what you can do right now and stop procrastinating. Am I going to do it, or am I not even going to compete? That's what was going through my head. I wasn't even thinking anymore. Eventually, I reached a point where I believed in myself. I knew what I had to do. I knew what I was capable of, and if I did it, I knew I would come in and win. A positive mindset is the foundation of a healthy and happy life. A positive mindset, absolute confidence, and willpower go hand in hand with all great success. There are far more ways to fail than there are ways to succeed, so you have to explore. Think about a rocket. There are 1,000 ways for it to fail and only one way for it to work. So you may fail many times just discovering all the ways you can fail. There is no luck in this game. Maybe a little bit of luck, but luck comes after you put yourself in situations where it might happen.
Luck doesn't just happen. you put yourself in a position where luck might occur. To be at the pinnacle of anything, whatever you do, you have to be a little gone. You can't be all there. You have to be almost insane about your craft. Not many people can understand that. One of the biggest failures is not accepting what you're actually good at. It might not be what you want to be good at, but not organizing your life around that ability is a mistake. Stop worrying about what people think and start valuing what you believe. A life that looks good or sounds good is nothing compared to a life that feels good. When it feels scary to jump, that's exactly when you jump. Otherwise, you stay in the same place your whole life, and I can't do that. If you can dream it, you can build it. That's the beauty of being an engineer. If something doesn't exist and you want it to exist, you can will it into existence. Don't be intimidated by what's happening in the world right now, or the creative destruction taking place. Find people doing what you want to do at the level you want to do it and study them. That's what I did. Most people go through life as volunteer victims. They volunteer to be victims, giving excuses for why they're not pursuing their greatness, why they're not doing the things they want to do, putting it off again and again, wasting valuable time. Everything is determined by what you do and by trying to be your best so you can build on positive performance. That's the only thing that matters. If you're talented, and most people are talented at something they enjoy, then focus on that and organize your entire life around it. Don't worry so much about money. That might sound hypocritical now, but I never really did. Life is so difficult and challenging that unless you give it everything you have, there's a very high chance it will embitter you, and then you'll become a force for darkness instead of good. When I fail, I can't stay in that failure zone for long. I have to get up and go again the very next day. My goal was to become a Navy SEAL. I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself for weeks, months, or years. Sidney Poitier once said, "When you walk with someone, something happens without being spoken. Either you adjust to their pace or they adjust to yours. Whose pace have you adjusted to?" When I realized that, I removed all the broke people from my life. When I was competing, I stopped trying to beat anyone. I didn't care who came second. I just focused on being my best and winning.
I didn't start out that way, especially when I was in second place. I was obsessed with beating the guy in front of me. I was chasing him. Over time, I learned to focus less on others and more on showing up as my best self. It's incredibly important to focus on something you're confident will bring real value to someone else, and to be extremely rigorous in assessing that honestly. People naturally fall into wishful thinking. Along with that, you have to set boundaries and respect who you are. If you try to take care of everyone else without limits, you lose yourself. You lose yourself when you don't set boundaries. You lose yourself when you don't take time to reconnect with who you are, even if you love what you're doing. Most of the time, we're focused on how things are supposed to go. We often decide whether to do something based on the result we expect. If we don't put in much effort and get a bad result, we're angry. If we put in a lot of effort and don't get a good result, we're disappointed. Either way, we're upset. The shift happens when you focus entirely on improving the action and the process. If you keep iterating and getting better at the process, the result is guaranteed and, in a sense, irrelevant. The result isn't success. Your intention, your attention, and your focus on the action is success. That mindset shift changes everything. If you're too afraid to show up and you sit at home wondering what if, no opportunity will ever come looking for you. Winners always show up. They're willing to lose in order to gain. This body, no matter how strong or skilled it is, can't do anything without confidence. We all fall down in life. The real question is who gets back up. If you go after something and give it everything you have, even if you lose, at least you tried. Someone who says, "I failed," is 10 times more courageous than someone who says, "What if?" because what if never stepped into the arena. I love fear, because behind every fear is the person you want to become. Fear is self-imposed. It doesn't actually exist. You create it, and you can destroy it. Fear is intangible. When you face it, you realize it's not as big as you imagined. You spend years running from something that turns out to be small once you confront it. If you face fear, you don't just beat it, you convert it. Energy is never lost. That negative energy transforms into confidence. You start asking yourself, what else am I capable of? What else am I holding myself back from? What else can I overcome? The moment you understand that your decisions should prioritize your future self, everything changes. Then you start asking, where am I getting my dopamine from? Imagine if your past self became a source of dopamine for your present self. Most people look back with regret, drank too much, said the wrong thing, wasted time. But if you can look back with gratitude, discipline becomes dopamine generating. What do you truly love to do? People who become average do average things. People who become successful do successful things. People who struggle do struggle-based behaviors. If I'm struggling and keep doing the same behaviors, I already know the outcome. I'd rather aim high and miss than aim low and hit. Aiming low never helps. Focus on behavior. You could be anyone and have everything, but if you can't reduce envy, ego, and illusion in your life, you'll still be lost. That's why the ideas of self-mastery and service are so powerful. They're worth dedicating your life to. If other people are working 40 hours a week and you're working 100, even doing the same thing, you'll achieve in 4 months what takes them a year. Some people train while no one is watching. They build without broadcasting. They work in silence so they can rise without noise. While everyone is obsessed with visibility, get comfortable being invisible. You take a problem and narrow it until you can face it. Then you face it. What happens next? You become more competent. Then you get better at facing all problems, not just that one. You don't just solve a problem, you learn how to solve problems. That's how people become braver. Some of the toughest, strongest, most unbreakable people don't look impressive on the outside, but deep down, there's one thing they never compromise: willpower. Courage isn't something you can fake, it's a real emotion.
Never put yourself in a situation where you damage your willpower. Never. Because eventually, the world, businesses, companies, families, everything is run by leaders. Not because they're the most talented, not because they speak better than everyone else, not because they read the most books or have the fanciest degrees, but because when they say they're going to do something, you can trust it. In a boardroom, when that person commits, you can bank on it. Often, when people discover new interests or new sides of themselves, they perform poorly at first. They do it badly and sloppily, but that's part of the process. In any sport, in any job, in life itself, success requires full participation. If you hold yourself back, if you procrastinate, if you don't actively engage with life, you remove yourself from the game. I remember seeing a speaker once and thinking, if this person can do this, then I can do that. But that realization came years after I had already decided to pursue it. I was still holding myself back. I kept creating reasons and excuses to justify why I wasn't acting on my dream. If you have big goals and big dreams, failure is going to happen along the way. The real question is how fast you get back up, and that's something you have to train yourself to do. The biggest key to success in anything is having an unlimited supply of drive and passion. That drive might come from nothing, but if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't actively involve yourself in life, nothing changes. I'll take you back to the first day he arrived at our training ground. He showed up at 6:50 in the morning. There was no one there except the person who unlocked the door. Training didn't start until 10, so what was he doing? Preparing.
A young student once asked the Buddha, "What do you gain from meditation?" The Buddha replied, "Nothing." The student was confused and asked, "Then why do you meditate?" The Buddha answered, "I don't meditate because of what I gain. I meditate because of what I lose. I lose anxiety. I lose insecurity. I lose doubt. I lose fear." For a long time, I thought it was wrong to be driven by the feeling of not being good enough, like saying, "I need to accomplish this to be worthy." That's not a healthy way to live, but it might be a powerful way to start. Many people reach high levels of success that way, and sometimes success gives you the abundance, confidence, and life experience needed to turn inward and discover genuine, lasting self-worth. Never put yourself in a situation where you weaken your willpower, because willpower is what leadership is built on. He still gets angry when he loses games. That fire never goes away. You are almost certainly at the beginning of your career. The people you admire are at the top of the mountain. They may remember what they were doing 6 months or a year ago, but they can't fully remember what it felt like to be a beginner. So when you ask someone what the key to success is, and they tell you things like work-life balance or follow your intuition, ask yourself, what did they do when they were at my stage? Often the answer is that everything was planned and there was no time for friends or family. That tells you something important. You should probably do what they did then, not what they do now when they have the luxury of choice. It's time to unwrap your potential. Greatness is inside you. It's inside every one of us. The people who reached the top were no different from anyone else. They simply believed it was possible and were willing to work relentlessly for it. It wasn't about genetics. It wasn't about talent alone. It wasn't about luck. They were knocked down more times than they could count, but they kept going and kept going and kept going, because the alternative was being average again, and that was unacceptable.
It doesn't matter how much time it takes. What matters is what you want to achieve. If you don't have a goal, something you're working toward, life can start to feel meaningless. There's this gap between the person you know you could be and the person you are right now. And the meaning of life often exists in the journey between those two versions of yourself. If other people are working 40-hour weeks and you're working 100-hour weeks, even doing the same thing, you'll compress time. In 1 year, you'll achieve what takes others several years. In a few months, you'll do what takes them a year. Some people train when no one is watching. They build without announcing it. They work in silence so they can rise without noise. While everyone is obsessed with being seen, get comfortable with being unseen. Growth happens when you take a problem and narrow it down until you can face it. Once you face it, you become more competent. Then you get better at facing all problems, not just that one. You don't just solve the issue, you build courage, and courage compounds. Some of the toughest, strongest people don't look impressive on the surface. But deep inside, there is one thing they never compromise: willpower. Courage is not something you can fake. It's a real emotion. Life requires engagement. In any sport, in any job, in any pursuit, success only comes when you step fully into the arena. If you keep holding yourself back, if you keep procrastinating, you remove yourself from your own life. When you have big dreams, failure will happen. The question is not if you fall, but how quickly you stand back up. Discipline, drive, and passion don't always come from comfort. Sometimes they come from nothing. But without action, they disappear. Success doesn't belong to the passive. It belongs to those who show up early, stay late, and prepare when others rest. That's why when he arrived at training at 6:50 in the morning, hours before anyone else, it wasn't madness, it was preparation. Greatness is built in those invisible hours.
He still gets angry when he loses. That fire never disappears. Most of the time, you are at the very beginning of your journey, while the people you look up to are already at the top of the mountain. They may remember what they were doing months ago, maybe even a year ago, but they can't truly remember what it felt like to be a beginner. They are operating in a completely different environment now. That's why when you ask someone what the key to success is, and they say things like work-life balance or follow your intuition, you have to ask yourself, what did they actually do when they were where I am right now? Often, you'll find that everything was structured, planned, and intense. They didn't have time for friends or family back then. So it makes more sense to copy what they did at your stage, not what they do now when they have freedom and options. It's time to unwrap your potential. Greatness is inside you. It's inside every single one of us. The people who reached the highest levels weren't different from you. They simply believed in what was possible and were willing to work relentlessly for it. It wasn't about talent alone. It wasn't about genetics. It wasn't about luck. It was about persistence. They were knocked down more times than they could stand up, but they kept getting back up, again and again and again, because the alternative was being average, and that was unacceptable. Life doesn't reward comfort. It rewards commitment. You can be involved in any sport, any job, any field. Success demands full participation. If you hold yourself back, if you hesitate, if you keep procrastinating, you disconnect from your own potential. I remember seeing a speaker once and thinking, if this person can do this, I can do that too. But the truth is, I had made that decision years earlier. I just wasn't acting on it. I was holding myself back. I kept creating reasons and excuses to justify why I wasn't moving toward my dream. If you have big dreams, failure will happen along the way. That's guaranteed. The only thing you control is how quickly you recover. You have to train yourself to get back up fast. The biggest key to success in anything is having an unlimited supply of drive. That drive might not come from inspiration. Sometimes it comes from frustration, pain, or nothing at all. But if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't actively participate in life, that drive never turns into results. Preparation separates the elite from everyone else. That's why showing up early matters. That's why training before anyone else arrives matters. Preparation builds confidence. Confidence builds dominance. A young student once asked the Buddha, "What do you gain from meditation?" The Buddha replied, "Nothing." Confused, the student asked, "Then why do you meditate?" The Buddha said, "I don't meditate for what I gain. I meditate for what I lose. I lose anxiety. I lose insecurity. I lose doubt. I lose fear." For a long time, I believed being driven by inadequacy was wrong. Feeling like you're not enough, like you have to prove something. That's not a healthy way to live, but it can be a powerful way to begin. Many people reach success through that mindset. And sometimes success gives you enough confidence, perspective, and experience to finally look inward and build real self-worth. Never place yourself in a situation where you weaken your willpower, because willpower is the foundation of leadership. The world is run by people who do what they say they will do, not by the most talented, not by the most educated, but by the most reliable. When someone commits and follows through, that's power. Fear never disappears completely, but fear isn't your enemy. Fear is a signal. Behind every fear is the person you're capable of becoming. Fear is self-created. It doesn't physically exist. You create it, and you can destroy it. When you face fear, it shrinks. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Energy is never lost. Fear transforms into confidence when you confront it. Then you start asking better questions. What else am I capable of? What else have I been avoiding? What else can I overcome?
The moment you start making decisions for your future self, your entire life shifts. Ask yourself where your dopamine comes from. What if your past self became something your present self was proud of? Most people look back with regret, but if you can look back with gratitude, discipline becomes rewarding. That's how discipline turns into momentum. That's how consistency becomes identity. Life is difficult. Life is demanding. And if you don't give it everything you have, it will harden you. But if you choose to engage fully, if you choose responsibility, effort, and self-belief, life will shape you into something strong. Greatness isn't reserved for a few. It's available to anyone willing to pay the price.